Good morning. Welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are a community of diverse beliefs and experiences, nurturing the liberal religious spirit and united by our desire to grow in love and in service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you gather with us every Sunday, once or twice a year, or if this is your first time visiting us this morning, we are very glad you are here. I'm David Peel, the worship associate this morning. Yep, there we are. I know what comes next, but you get lost. Our service is led by our minister, Reverend Sharon Wylie, and our worship musician this morning is Mr. John Schultz. Our song leader is Callie Leaf, and our tech team on the back there is Jake Diock, Hope Campbell, and Dean Godet. And our greeters out at the table, or helping you on the desk on the right here, are Shannon Anderson and Rosalind Morris. Welcome to our Sunday worship service. Welcome to those of you here in the chapel and those of you joining us online by Zoom. This morning's theme and title is Facing the Fear of White Violence, and we will be articulating and thinking about the threat of white violence and how this is enabled by our current state of society. For those of you here in the chapel, please feel free to wear masks or step outside if being inside makes you uncomfortable. As you know, you'll be able to hear what's going on in here if you go out there, because we have great speakers and good tech stuff to get what's going on here out there. We're always delighted to see newcomers joining us in worship. As a newcomer, you might be interested in the groups and activities we have to offer, and you can find those in our email newsletter and calendar. Online newcomers, you will receive an email invitation to join our email list after the service. And in-person newcomers, if you haven't given us your email address already, when you signed in, please consider sharing it with us before you leave. Our weekly email is a really good way to get the information about the many groups and activities we have to offer here at Chalice. So now let's take a breath together. Now we light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I'd like to invite Jesse Striplin to light our chalice this morning. Our chalice lighting words are an augmented version of a chalice lighting by Douglas Traversa. It's entitled, In a World Filled with Hate. Hate is the emotional equivalent of junk food. I'll say that again. Hate is the emotional equivalent of junk food. It's easy, it's quick, and it's mindless. Like junk food, hate delivers a short puff of gratification. And like junk food, it has no lasting value. Addictive, it nourishes nothing. Hate is the wasting disease of the mind, and with it, the body and the soul. In a world filled with the darkness of hate, let us shine the steadfast light of love. In a world filled with the darkness of despair, may we protect and nurture the light of hope. In a world filled with the darkness of ignorance, let us illuminate that darkness with the light of reason. We light this chalice that represents the light and love that nourishes each of us.
The words of our call to worship. This was a difficult week, again. This is a difficult time, still. The world full of chaos and conflict, still. People are dying. Heat threatens lives. Turmoil abounds, again, still. Like always. We gather together each week sheltered against the storm, sheltered together against storms that have been raging for decades, for millennia. Each wounded soul is welcome here, each broken heart, each weary spirit. Together we take shelter and sing and cry, mourn and rejoice, hopeful that our shared healing here will in turn help heal a hurting world. Let us worship together. You're invited to rise in body or spirit to join in singing.
We'll be singing our hymn of the month, 1046 in the teal hymnal. Shall we gather at the river? We'll do all 4 verses.
Yes, we'll gather at the river.
Please be seated.
Our Sunday worship is the shared spiritual practice of our community, and we tend to the congregation during this time by sharing and honoring our joys and sorrows. Here in the chapel, you are welcome to write your joy or sorrow onto a candle card that will be collected from you. Online, please write your joy or sorrow into the chat box, including your name. These joys and sorrows will be spoken out loud here, and then we'll remove this part of the service from the recording that goes onto our Zoom YouTube channel. So this sharing will not be publicly available online. If you'd like to send Reverend Sharon a confidential note about your joy or sorrow, or to make a prayer request, please email her, and her email will be on screen in a moment. So please enjoy some music while you write down what you would like to share, so that in that sharing, your burden is lessened and your joy is multiplied.
And we'll light a final pillar candle for all the joys and sorrows in the room and in our community, which may go unshared and unspoken this morning. These two are held in the love and support of our community. Now I'd like to invite the children and anyone who might like to come forward for the story. Our story is called Breaking News, written and illustrated by Sarah Lynn Rule. I remember when we heard the bad news. Suddenly, Mom is glued to the television. Dad can't stop checking his phone. They whisper, and I pretended not to hear. It is more than a little scary. Mom forgets to tuck me in. Dad is too tired for bedtime stories. It seems like everyone else feels it too. At school, my teacher says to look for the helpers. Even when the news is bad, you can still find good people trying to make things better in big and small ways. I want to help in a big way. I decide to put on the funniest show ever to make everyone laugh again, but the grown-ups don't feel like laughing. I tell them about the force fields I'll invent to keep us all safe, but their smiles are tiny and sad. I try to be on my best behavior all the time, to be so good, but they hardly even notice. I think maybe there is nothing I can do to help in a big way. I feel small. So maybe I can try to do just one small thing? And maybe another. And another. And one more? Small things don't solve everything. The bad news is still there after all. But then again, so are we. Our story.
As the children leave for their classes, we'll sing them out. Walk on your path with a song so sweet that everywhere you go there is love all around. Walk on your path with a song so sweet that everywhere you go there is love all around.
My hope is always that our worship hour is uplifting and comforting, a time of restoration during your busy lives. But there are times we must tackle heavy topics, and today is one of those times. Back in June, we had our community forum to discuss returning our Black Lives Matter flag to our flagpole. And we heard from several congregants, not a majority, but several, who talked about feeling afraid to be on our Chalice campus and fear of the attention that flying the flag might bring. And so I thought we should reflect together on what we might be afraid of and why, and what it is like to live in fear. Violence is so much a part of our lives now, isn't it? We arrived this Sunday morning after a week with yet another school shooting. And just last evening, news of a mass shooting in Kentucky. There's much we don't understand about the prevalence of mass shootings in the United States. In researching for today's sermon, I found the transcript of a 2022 panel discussion on gun violence and mass shootings as a public health priority in the United States. The panel was convened by the Permanente Journal, which is a peer-reviewed journal of clinical medicine and healthcare delivery science associated with healthcare provider Kaiser Permanente. Mass shootings is a broad topic that includes shootings in public places like schools, churches, concerts, stores, offices, but it can also include shootings of multiple people in a private residence. It could include gang shootings. So one thing we don't have is a uniform definition of what constitutes a mass shooting, how many people need to be involved, and what is the motive of the shooter. So anytime you're reading statistics or analysis of mass shootings, the first question should be, how is this article or this reporter defining mass shootings? The 5 panelists agreed that there was no single or simple answer as to the cause of mass shootings. Discussion about the origins of our epidemic of violence centered on easy access to firearms, social and economic inequalities, and a societal failure to intervene meaningfully when there are warning signs. We're going to be thinking about that a lot with regards to the school shooting. One of the panelists noted there's a lot of debate about whether mass shootings are a white male crime. When the statistics get broken down, there are many experts who suggest that the numbers of white males involved in these crimes is proportionate to the overall number of white males in our society. End quote. But I'm not talking this morning about mass shootings in general. This morning, I'm asking us to reflect specifically on white violence. And by that, I mean violence perpetrated by white supremacist groups and their followers. Because I think that's what we mean when we talk about fear of flying a Black Lives Matter flag. Yes? We're afraid of attracting attention from people who find a Black Lives Matter flag provocative. Hate groups, extremist groups, and their followers. The Southern Poverty Law Center is an American nonprofit legal advocacy organization specializing in civil rights and public interest litigation. This organization also classifies and tracks hate group development and activity. So here is a recent video from that organization discussing this current moment.
2023 was a year of preparation for the far right. Not only does our 2023 report show a historic number of hate and anti-government groups, but also, I would say, an intensifying effort by hate and anti-government extremists to undermine democratic institutions ahead of one of really the most consequential elections in U.S. history. So in 2023, we documented the highest number of white nationalist groups and the highest number of anti-LGBTQ plus groups that we've ever recorded.
Such groups never miss an opportunity, and 2023 was definitely an opportunity. What we used to call extremist ideology and kind of fringe ideologies and conspiracy theories have moved to the center of our cultural and political life. And in 2023, it's continued to do so. We also see a larger number of people in the country seem unsure or even unconvinced about some of our democratic norms and institutions. There's almost like a legitimacy crisis.
So I think seeing the attacks on institutions is pretty apparent in 2023. I think it's also fair to say that those attacks are a way to draw and divert resources from those public institutions.
So they kind of use that to create these opportunities for people to kind of project and kind of see themselves in these extremist movements when most likely they wouldn't otherwise. They want to dehumanize and criminalize not only the opposition politically, but people in the country that they just don't like. There are a lot of groups that are targeted, and they're usually groups that are more vulnerable. The individuals in many of those groups just want to try to thrive at life.
The communities most targeted by hate and anti-government groups, I would say communities of color, immigrant communities, minority faith communities, and LGBTQ+ communities are all targeted. When thinking about how to prevent extremism and inoculate against supremacist ideologies, our report includes a lot of actions, including state and federal policy proposals that if we take, we can stop the rise of hate and anti-government extremism in America and preserve our multiracial inclusive democracy.
The groups that we study and the groups that we follow have their eyes set on 2024. For them, it's a huge inflection point, and they're not just looking at November, they're looking at December, right? They're looking at what comes after. And so, this is a really important year for U.S. democracy.
One of the warning signs named in that panel discussion I just mentioned, one of the warning signs is the dehumanization of others. Shooters stop thinking of people as fellow humans, which has to happen for them to contemplate enacting such violence. So we just heard in this video that the communities most targeted by hate and anti-government groups are communities of color, immigrant communities, minority faith communities, and LGBTQ+ communities. We are a minority faith community, Unitarian Universalists. There's been one shooting at a UU congregation in July 2008 at our congregation in Knoxville, Tennessee. The shooter's ex-wife was a congregant there. The shooter attributed his motivation for the rampage as a hatred of, in his words, liberals, Democrats, African Americans, and homosexuals. 2 adults were killed, and the shooter is serving life in prison without parole. I was entering seminary when that happened, in the age before Facebook and Reddit connected us so much more closely. I don't remember thinking much about it, except to feel sad. I think the main feeling among UUs was that the church had been targeted for its public support of LGBTQ people. Now I see with fresh eyes what the shooter wrote. He hated liberals, Democrats, African Americans, and homosexuals. I feel like we, or many of us anyway, didn't quite know what to make of the part about him hating African Americans. It felt kind of random in that list, right? This list of things, and oh, he's also racist. I don't know how many Black congregants were attending the Knoxville congregation, but his list makes more sense to us now, to me anyway, I think, now that we better understand the litany of hate that comes from these white extremist supremacist organizations. But I also think it's worth noting that the Knoxville shooting did not prompt our congregations to begin enacting stronger security measures. I don't see anything in Chalice's newsletter about it from that time. I wasn't here, you can tell me if you remember it differently. The only comment is that the children made peace cranes to send to the Knoxville congregation. It was a different era, and the shooting seemed isolated, a terrible and unusual event. Not like now. But what I want to talk about this morning is a deeper, older fear than just the fears that come in these times. White people have always known that white people are dangerous. Yes? We don't talk about it. This morning, I want to talk about it. I know this is a bit of a jump from what we've been talking about. Stay with me. The first time I marched in public with a Black Lives Matter sign was in January 2018 at the North County Women's March. Chalice had rented a bus for congregants to get to the march. I had drawn my sign by hand, and as I started to march with it, I realized I felt very, very nervous. My mind started racing about it because intellectually I felt strong and clear about carrying the sign, but it was my body had a completely different response. The march was not confrontational with other groups, but my body was nervous. I calmed down a bit as the march went on, but I've always remembered how transgressive it felt just to carry that sign, how it felt like there was something dangerous happening, even though all was well. I didn't understand it until I was reading Robin DiAngelo's book, White Fragility, and a section she has on white solidarity, and her chapter about how race shapes the lives of white people. So she wrote, "White solidarity is the unspoken agreement among whites to protect white advantage and not cause another white person to feel racial discomfort by confronting them when they say or do something racially problematic." Educational researcher Christine Sleeter describes this solidarity as white racial bonding. She observes that when whites interact, they affirm a common stance on race-related issues, legitimating particular interpretations of groups of color and drawing conspiratorial we-they boundaries. White solidarity requires both silence about anything that exposes the advantages of the white position and tacit agreement to remain racially united in the protection of white supremacy. To break white solidarity is to break rank. The very real consequences of breaking white solidarity play a fundamental role in maintaining white supremacy. We do indeed risk censure and other penalties from our fellow whites. We might be accused of being politically correct, or might be perceived as angry, humorless, combative, and not suited to go far in an organization. In my own life, these penalties have worked as a form of social coercion. Seeking to avoid conflict and wanting to be liked, I have chosen silence all too often. Conversely, when I kept quiet about racism, I was rewarded with social capital, such as being seen as fun, cooperative, and a team player. Notice that within a white supremacist society, I am rewarded for not interrupting racism and punished in a range of ways, big and small, when I do. People of color certainly experience white solidarity as a form of racism, wherein we fail to hold each other accountable, to challenge racism when we see it, or to support people of color in the struggle for social justice. The very real consequences of breaking white solidarity, that was the fear I felt in my body carrying a Black Lives Matter sign. Now I wear a Black Lives Matter shirt periodically to continue to push myself to be visible in breaking white solidarity. A year ago, I was wearing my Black Lives Matter shirt when I went into a pack and ship place here in Escondido to get a document notarized. When I told the man at the desk what I needed, he said he was going to refuse me service. I said, "Yeah, why is that?" And then he said, "Because I'm lazy," like it was a joke. And he got out his notary stuff. And then he made sure to tell me that it's illegal for notaries to refuse service to anyone. It was a weird encounter, but it also felt really familiar. The confrontation, followed by the jokiness, followed by seriousness again. I'm left with the wondering, like, did something really happen? Is it me? Did I imagine that? I would like to think that if I had it to do over again, I would have just said, "Because I'm wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt," and then see what he said. Or I could have said, "Oh, I thought you wanted to refuse me service because of my shirt." Something that would make the encounter more explicit. Something that would make the invisible more visible. The power of white solidarity is such that when I sent out the title of this sermon, I felt nervous about it. Nervous about titling the service about white violence. Nervous about this topic, even though I think it's important. Now, I've been here 12 years, And even when some of you have disagreed with me about an idea or a thought I've had, I've never felt threatened or attacked or like it wasn't safe for me to say what I'm thinking. So my nervousness is both irrational, it's not grounded on anything that's happened here, but it's also deep and familiar. It is transgressive for white people to talk about the norms of living in white supremacy culture. John Schultz gave me permission to share that he felt a little nervous about a piece he's written for us for this service you'll hear later on. Just like me, his nervousness is both irrational, it's not grounded on anything that's ever happened here, but it's also deep and familiar. Naming white violence is breaking white solidarity. I've talked before about how white supremacist heteropatriarchy is one thing. It's one system, and all of the isms and phobias, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, fat phobia, ableism, all of these uphold that system of white supremacist heteropatriarchy. And opposing any one of those, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, fatphobia, and ableism, opposing any of these threatens the whole system. Women are well aware of the dangers and threats of white supremacist heteropatriarchy. We carry our keys in our hands and stay out of stairwells and hurry to our cars. We are cautious about walking alone at night. Our awareness of threat is so deeply ingrained that we don't even talk about it much. I suggest that men are also well aware of the dangers from other men. You know how you're supposed to act and can assess which men you want to stay away from and who you are not going to become buddies with. You know to stay aware of how much other men are drinking and how loud they are becoming. Gay men know particularly well that they are supposed to perform masculinity in a certain way to try and avoid being attacked. It is exhausting living this way, no question. For me, talking about these realities is liberating. It lightens the heaviness of what we're carrying, what we're living with. Understanding the world we're living in is part of the work of living thoughtfully and mindfully. And if we are living in fear, let's name who we're really afraid of. Because once we've done that, maybe we can start to feel clearer about whether or not our fears are rational. And we can start to think about if fear is a place we want to live full time. And we can start to dream of a world where fear does not keep us from being visible in our love and support of each other. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. Seated or standing, you are invited to raise your voice in song.
We'll be singing song 1012 in the Teal hymnal, When I Am Frightened. When I am frightened, will you reassure me? When I'm uncertain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share some of your stories with me? If you Please be seated.
Our Sunday offering is an expression of the generosity that makes our congregational life possible. As Buddhist teacher Sharon Salzberg writes, generosity is characterized by the inner quality of letting go or relinquishing. Being able to let go, give it up, to renounce, to give generously, these capacities spring from the same source within us. When we practice generosity, we open to all of these liberating qualities simultaneously. We encourage you to text your donation to Chalice. If you haven't texted a donation before, once you text the amount, you'll get a reply with a link to enter your card information. If your Sunday donation is meant to be part of your payment pledge, please be sure to indicate pledge after the dollar amount. The phone number for text donations will be on screen in a moment. If you prefer to make an in-person donation of cash or check, there are envelopes and a donation box to the left of the chapel double doors. You can leave those donations on your way out after the service. Please give generously. Please join in dedicating our offering with words of affirmation. At Chalice UU congregation, our mission is to inspire individual and communal spiritual growth.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And we think almost there. I can feel it coming. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go. There it comes. Okay, got that too. And let me just check my drummer. He's doing okay. All right. On Sharon's topic this morning, as occasion would have it, Jessica and I are going to be taking a small vacation, and the city we're starting in is Buffalo, New York. We're going to Buffalo to start a little vacation and a bike ride. And with the topic of this morning, I was reminded of the shooting in Buffalo, a tragic shooting at a grocery store, if you remember, a white supremacist murdered 10 people, wounded others, and I thought of that while I was trying to come up with a song, and this is what I came up with. grocery store in Buffalo. It's a miracle that it's here. A small bright dot in a desert caused by racist greed and fear. The perfect place to fight my cause. There's too much color in this place. If I can't have, then no one can. It's a winner take all race. Can't they go back where they came from? I swear I will not be replaced. I grew up here, I felt at ease. Now I feel I'm being chased away and minimized. My kind used to run these streets. We use the same old tactics, guns and fear, but we just don't wear the sheets. There's a purpose to this madness. There's a reason for this rhyme. It's not random acts of violence. It's planned out in perfect time. And the dog whistle has been replaced with a bullhorn in prime time. There's a reason for the rhyme. Don't think that I'm a lone wolf. There are others who hear this call. Pittsburgh, Chattanooga, Charleston, and you know that's not all. And after the silence is deafening, the news cycle flips on by. So we'll go back and just reload. On your indifference, I rely. There's a purpose to this madness. There's a reason for this rhyme. It's not random acts of violence. It's planned out in perfect time. And the dog whistle has been replaced by a bullhorn in prime time. There's a reason for the rhyme. I'm the lawyer, judge, and jury, so let the punishment fit the crime. There's a reason for this rhyme.
The words of this reflection come from the Reverend Margaret Keep. The journeys of our lives are never fully charted. There come to each of us deserts to cross, barren stretches where the green edge on the horizon may be our destination, or an oasis on our way, or a mirage that beckons only to leave us lost. When fear grips the heart or despair bows the head, may we bend as heart and head lead us down to touch the ground beneath our feet. May we scoop some sand into our hands and receive what the sand would teach us. It holds the warmth of the sun when the sun has left our sight, as it holds the cool of the night when the stars have faded. Hidden among its grains are tiny seeds at rest and waiting, dormant yet undefeated. Desert flowers, they endure, moistened by our tears and by the rains which come to end even the longest drought. They send down roots and they bloom. May we believe in those seeds and in the seeds within us. May we remember in our dry seasons that we too are desert flowers. May it be so. You're invited again to rise to sing together.
We'll be singing hymn 1045 in the Teal hymnal. There's a balm in Gilead. We're going to be doing the first verse twice. Please be seated.
Our closing and chalice extinguishing words this morning. The man with the gun is doing the dirty work. He believes he's on a mission. The big man told him so. And he believes it to his core. In his malnourished, wasted mind, he's about to be a martyr for some just cause. To the big man, he's an expendable, a cheap tool doing some dirty work, some means to an end. What end? When yet another job is done, the big man will feign ignorance of the license he gave. His status will protect him from the justice that should swallow him. But we are a society, civil society, that evolved social trust and cooperation out of a need for survival. We outgrew superstition and advanced with reason. We are not deaf to the hidden messages and the subtexts under vapid words. We extinguish this chalice and its light but we carry on the questioning and cooperation, reason and love that it stands for. Peace be to each of you. You're invited to close our time together by singing the well. After our closing hymn, please hold on to your seats for a couple of announcements.
We drink from the well together, cool, cool water that quenches my thirst, a thirst for justice, a thirst for joy, a thirst for all love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well. We drink from the well together. Hand in hand we are standing as one, standing for justice, standing for joy, standing for all love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well. Open the doors to the world outside, spirits renewed from within. Look for the dream in each other's eyes, the spark where a new world begins. Yes, we drink from the well together. Heart to heart we are dancing as one, dancing for justice, dancing for joy, dance for all love that we're all a part of. We drink from the well, spirits renewed. We drink from the well, stand hand in hand. We drink from the well, dancing for joy. I feel my heart swell. We drink from the well.
Do you want to, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. As most of you should know by now, if you've read the newsletter or the e-news or been around for the last couple weeks, we are celebrating Tim's 20th anniversary at Chalice on September 22nd. And I have a scroll that I'd like each and every one of you to sign. If you didn't do that last week, I'll have it out on the courtyard. We're going to present him with a big, long thing with lots of signatures and notes and stuff to thank him for his 20 years here. So see me out on the courtyard. Thank you.
Hello. We want to chat with you about the auction. Yes. So you all know the important dates?
Yes, some important dates. The online auction is open for 1 week. It opens on Sunday, October 20th at noon, and it closes Sunday, October 27th at 5 p.m. That's the online auction.
Then, of course, there's the live auction where you populate all these great seats and we have a lot of fun together. That is going to happen at Chalice and via Zoom Saturday, October 26th.
Right. So the auction website opens September 15th. You'll be able to register, start uploading donations, and purchase dinner for 2 opportunity drawing tickets.
And if you have registered in previous auctions, you don't need to register again. But if your email address or phone number has changed, you do need to contact the auction team with those changes.
Right, so remember that the auction, the main emphasis is on planning those themed dinners. And that can be all kinds of themes. There's been such wonderful creativity from this group over the years. Anybody who hasn't experienced it, it's really one of the core of how we build a community here. Those themed dinners and parties account for the bulk of our Chalice income and offer incredible fun throughout the year. For instance, if you want to make, you like cream puffs, right? You've discovered you love cream puffs. You want to make cream puffs, you can make that a party. Everybody comes together, you all inject cream into puffed dough. It's fun.
It could be fun.
It could be fun.
Yes, but parties could also be a lot of work. If this intimidates you, grab a buddy, right? We're all here to work together, and we would love to co-create parties. So don't feel like you have to do it all yourself. You can get someone else to inject cream with you or whatever, and then make that offer so that you're each supporting each other for the offering.
All right, beginning today, Judy Wynn will be out on the patio during coffee hour. Her purple Monster Mash shirt, that will indicate what the theme of this year is about, with a calendar in hand to help with event date reservations. So go out there, get creative, and help out.
And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
One last announcement from Julie on behalf of Bonnie and the poetry group. Do you enjoy poetry? Are you an aspiring poet or an admiring reader? Are you looking for inspiration to get your week off to a centered and thoughtful start? Poetry can help with all of that. All are welcome to the poetry group tomorrow, that would be Monday, at 1 p.m. in the Blue Room of the Hub over there. Bring a couple of your favorites or just come to listen and your life will be just a little bit more lovely. And that's it. Our social hour will begin on the courtyard in a few minutes and online at this very same Zoom link and right in person on the courtyard like I just in a couple minutes. Those of you here in person might want to take your refreshments and some of those nice treats and go into the Blue Room and have a green room and have a visit with our online congregants who, would like to touch base with us more than just watching us on during the service. And Reverend Sharon and I look forward to greeting you at the chapel doors to hear how this service was meaningful to you. Go in peace, and may peace be with you.